Whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no home, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul, whatever thou be until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
And I'm Lulu Marie.
And you're Lulu Marie, and we are both thankful for all the recent ratings and reviews. Yeah, thanks for caring enough about this show to take the time to do that. Thanks to those of you who have shared this show with somebody else. In the age of marketing saturation, truly nothing helps us find new listeners more than personal recommendations, ratings, and reviews. So,
keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah, literally can't do this without you, and appreciate you so much. And I know Lindsay wants to talk about books real quick, and then we're off into stories. Lulu Marie.
Whew,
sorry. Whew.
My goodness.
Excuse me.
Hi. Okay, well, just a quick reminder that when you hear this, Annabelles, you will have already heard this and had many reminders, but your books did go on sale today, August 19th at 12 noon Pacific time. And for everyone else who is wanting to get a book, your books are also probably on sale right now as you're listening to this because they go on sale August 20th at 12 noon Pacific time. So again, 19th for Annabelles and everyone else on the 20th, 12 noon Pacific time. You can find those books at badmagicproductions.com. They are pre-sale. Keep that in mind. You'll have the books autographed and in hand on or before Halloween. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. It is my pleasure, Dan.
And you look especially beautiful today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's this sexy dress. It's not meant to be sexy, but it just is.
It is. Mm-hmm. Out of the paranormal horror tales sent in by our creeps and peepers to mysstory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com, which ones have you chosen to share with us this week, Lulu Marie?
Well, my first tale explores the question of, was this postpartum depression or was it something deeper, something spooky, something from the other side? And I really like that angle.
Yeah.
And then my second story takes us to Bulgaria, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's a little travel story, like a little lore, and then something that happens that leaves two travelers spooked out.
All right. So those two. My first of three supposedly true supernatural tales comes to us from Tennessee, the legend of the White Bluff Screamer. Even if it's not true, the origin tale is good and creepy.
Okay, love that.
After that, we'll travel back to the end of the 16th century in what is now Germany, where a man named Peter Stumpp, living in the small farming town of Bedborg, was once tortured and killed, that for sure happened, after confessing to being a murderous werewolf.
What?
Was his confession nothing more than nonsense, made up in the futile hope that it would lead to his torturers putting an end to his pain and just killing him? Or was there any truth to his very strange, specific, and incredibly dark claims?
Okay.
And then finally, we'll stay in the not-so-forgotten past.
3 stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll explore England's 1612 Pendle Witch Trials, the deadliest witch trials in English history, and a precursor to the Salem Witch Trials here in America.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, where any of these, witches executed actually practicing witchcraft, and even if they were not, do their spirits now haunt the living?
Okay. Also, I just wanted to tell you, that's first story. You said it takes place in Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
You're the only 10 I see.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So once you're socked up and ready to go, I'll get started.
I hope other couples listening are just laughing like, yep, we do the same stupid shit. I have these really awesome, super cozy, world's softest cloud socks.
Those do look very soft.
You know what? They're pretty epic. I'm socking up right now. My toes are frozen.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
My first story today comes to us again from the American South. It is literally screaming with paranormal terror. Time now for the tale of the White Bluff Screamer. The story begins, unsurprisingly, in the little town of White Bluff, Tennessee. It's nestled in Dixon County, less than an hour outside of Nashville. Small town, rural vibes with a history that goes back well over a century. The kind of place where ghost stories tend to stick around, passed down through generations, and in cases of like the White Bluff Screamer, it's one of those stories that, at least for those who truly believe, seems to get louder, more terrifying over time. So what exactly is the Screamer? Is it a ghost, a cryptid, a banshee, a cursed soul? It depends on who you ask. But those in the area who have claimed to have heard about the blood-curdling screams echoing from the woods near White Bluff, usually at night, they almost always hear them when they're alone. And they say that the screams do not sound like any animal native to Tennessee or to an animal native to anywhere for that matter. They sound human, but twisted, broken, and otherworldly. There are a few different origin stories floating around. I'll share two of the most well-known with you. And here's the first. In the late 1800s, a family moved into a remote cabin just outside of White Bluff, parents and 7 children. Their names have been lost to history, but the story hasn't been. They were new to the area, trying to start over after some hard times. At first, everything seemed peaceful, but then the screaming began. It would come at night and always from the woods. Initially, it was faint. Then it grew steadily louder, and soon the entire family was afraid to go outside after dark. One night, the father, desperate to protect his children, took his hunting rifle and ventured out towards the source of the sound. He came back mere minutes later, white-faced, shaking, and refused to speak of what he'd seen. But it didn't matter, because the next night the screaming was heard again. It came from even closer. And then the next night, it came from closer still. Finally, one morning, the man woke up to find all 7 of his children and his wife brutally killed. Their bodies had been torn apart and mutilated, as if an animal had attacked, but no tracks were found, no claw marks, no blood trail, and strangest of all, somehow he hadn't heard what had been done to them, even though he was sleeping in the same small cabin, even though he shared his bed with his murdered wife. In his grief and madness, the father apparently lost his mind. How could you not? Some say he wandered off into the woods in a daze and was never seen again. Others say he took his own life, and his body was found near the corpses of his family. Either way, locals began to believe that something monstrous, whatever had attacked his family, still lived in the woods, a creature that screamed in the night and took lives with no remorse, and that it was still out there, waiting for more lives to take and others to ruin. The other version of the White Bluff Screamer legend is more ghostly. It tells of a woman who lived near White Bluff with her infant child. Her husband had died in the Civil War, and she was left destitute and alone. One night, mad with grief, isolation, and desperation, she too wandered off into the woods with her baby in her arms, and she did the unthinkable. They say she threw the child into a ravine, then leapt in after it. Days later, some hunters found the woman's body broken and lifeless at the bottom of a rocky cliff, but the baby's body, strangely, was never found. Ever since, some have claimed to have heard a woman's voice weeping and wailing in those same woods. Sometimes the cries are soft and mournful. Other times they're piercing, angry, screaming, sometimes sounding as if someone is being tortured. Interestingly, it turns out that this screaming woman legend does not only exist in the woods of Tennessee. Similar stories have popped up over the years across America and outside of it, which leads us to some interesting additional information. Folklorists and other researchers interested in myths, monsters, and the unexplainable have started to notice that the White Bluff Screamer might be part of a much older mythos. There are echoes of this kind of entity in stories of La Llorona, the weeping woman from Mexican folklore, whose story we once shared on one of our virtually live Scared to Death Haunted Halloween shows. Also, in Appalachian lore and amongst the Gullah people of the low country of South Carolina and Georgia, there's something called a witch haint, a ghostly crone or wailing spirit that lurks in the hollers. And in Cherokee oral tradition, which long predates any settlers in Tennessee, of course, there are tales of spirit women known as Yuhlunta, which roughly translates to "it cries." These were not benevolent ghosts, they were omens, spirits said to appear before death or tragedy. According to one story recorded by American ethnographer James Mooney, who lived for several years amongst the Cherokee in the 19th century, a group of Cherokee hunters once heard a woman sobbing loudly, screaming really, near a river in what's now Dickson County, not far from White Bluff. When they searched, they found no tracks, just a patch of blackened earth and a heavy, unnatural mist. Days later, 2 of those hunters were killed in a freak storm. Locals have long said that the Screamer shows up after desecrations of the land, logging, digging, building. Some even believe it's a protector spirit warped by grief and turned violent. So what about today? Is the White Bluff Screamer still out there? Well, this next supposedly true account comes from 1993. A group of high school kids, 3 boys and 2 girls, decided to camp in the woods near White Bluff after hearing about the legends. Typical teenage stuff. One of them even brought a camcorder to, quote, capture the screamer. They hiked in before sunset, found a clearing, started telling each other ghost stories around a fire, nothing too unusual, until the screaming started. At first, they thought it was somebody playing a prank on them, some friend of theirs who they told about what they were up to, who had now followed them to freak them out. But then the sound got closer, too close, and it wasn't just a scream, it was a shriek. Bone-chilling, long, and echoing, and unlike any noise any of their friends would have been capable of making, and it was coming from up in the trees. One of the boys, trying to be brave, shined his flashlight up towards the sound, and he cried out and dropped his flashlight. When he'd calmed down enough to be able to speak, he swore he saw something crouched up on a branch. Pale white, humanoid, too tall, and it vanished when the light hit it. The group panicked, packed up, and then tried to head back the way they came to go home, but in their frantic bid to leave in a hurry, they got turned around and lost for a little while. Meanwhile, the screams continued, following them. One girl dropped her backpack, which was later found shredded open with what looked like bite marks on the straps. They eventually made it out just before sunrise, but not without scratches, bruises, and some trauma. One of the boys reportedly would not ever talk about it again, and the girl who had dropped her backpack refused to go into those woods for years. And the footage from the camcorder, allegedly static except for one frame that showed nothing but trees and 2 glowing white eyes in the background. Someone else posted online about the screamer in 2013, writing about an incident that supposedly happened back in 2006. A man who went by the username TrailDadTN, as in Tennessee 84, posted a terrifying story to a Tennessee hiking forum. He claimed that he and his 9-year-old son had been hiking near the edge of Montgomery Bell State Park, not far from White Bluff. They set up camp in a clearing by a small pond the locals call Sinkhole Spring. And that night, after the boy had fallen asleep, the man stayed up smoking by the fire. That's when he heard what he described as sobbing from the trees. He assumed it was an animal until he realized it sounded human, like a woman crying. The sound returned later. It was louder. This time it was more like screaming. He grabbed a flashlight, but the batteries were dead. His son woke up scared. The man told him it was just an owl, though he admitted to being terrified himself. Then the inside of the tent collapsed inward like something had hit it. He unzipped the flap and looked out. Standing just beyond the fire's edge was something not quite human. He said it looked like a woman, but completely white. White skin, white hair, white dress, glowing faintly. And worst of all, her mouth was wide open like a scream frozen in time. No sound came out, but the man said he could feel the scream, like it was vibrating inside his skull. Then he said he blacked out. When he came to, his son was terrified, crying, and shaking him awake. Their tent was torn, the fire was out, their cooler was gone, and their gear had been scattered. They ran the 3 miles back to their truck without stopping. The son had nightmares for months. His dad wrote that, "I can't prove what we saw, but I still dream about her face, that open mouth and those dead white eyes." Whether it's an ancient spirit, a cursed soul, or something we don't have words for, the White Bluff Screamer remains one of Tennessee's most chilling legends. The cries are still supposedly heard. The sightings reportedly continue. If you ever find yourself camping near White Bluff, Tennessee, and you hear a woman crying in the woods, be on guard if you go looking for her. Instead of finding someone who needs your help, you might soon end up needing help yourself.
The description of her makes me think of the Scream mask, like the all white with the and then if it was generally that costume is sold like as an all black outfit, if it was all white and the only negative space was the mouth, that is so creepy.
Yeah, I wonder like a horror movie like that, like the Scream franchise, if the first one, well, I haven't seen it so long. That's right. It's not necessarily paranormal. I guess it's like a serial killer.
Yeah. But
but just movies in general, like, or no matter what, even a serial killer movie, true crime.
Totally.
I wonder if sometimes, they get inspiration, even if they're not conscious of it, by having read stories like these.
I know. I always think I would like to interview horror movie writers, creators, and say okay, but what inspired it, and just but more, dig into your childhood, really understand
how many
where
legends
it comes from.
And myths and folklore and supposedly true stories did you listen to maybe for years?
Yeah,
before you thought of your premise for your horror movie.
Exactly.
I have just a few little images here, just 2. This first one, this is someone's interpretation of the White Bluff Screamer. An illustration found on cryptidsfandom.com.
It reminds me of a White Walker.
Oh yeah, in this illustration,
Uh-huh.
like the ghost of a White Walker almost. But yeah.
God, I loved that show.
And here's another interpretation of the White Bluff Screamer. This image was found on mysteriousuniverse.org.
Yeah, that's more of like what
No
I was
face.
thinking. And I like how
Mhm.
this imagery has some earthy kind of elements to the body.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. That's all I got for that one.
Oh, just those two. Sorry, I thought you said you had three.
Nuh-uh.
My bad. Yeah, I like that you brought up La Llorona again.
Yeah.
Because I thought that even
La
before you
Llorona.
said it, I was like, oh, yep, definitely. Say it again.
La Llorona.
La Llorona. I don't know. I want to say, what I want to say is Lorraine. Okay?
Lorraine. It's Lorraine. Lorraine, get out of here.
Lorraine, enough of your nonsense. Get.
Stop with your goofing, Lorraine. You're scaring us.
Skedaddle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I think it was the dad or what is the Tennessee hiker 84 guy or somebody else, they were saying that the sound of an animal crying, and it made me just think we were just fishing recently with Kyler.
Oh, yes. I had that thought during the story and I forgot. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, and we were like, God, what is that? And, thankful for the internet in those moments where we were like, okay, what animal sounds like a crying child?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Red fox.
Yep, red fox.
Is what we think we heard.
Yeah, we were just fishing, for those of you in the Coeur d'Alene area or know of it, we were fishing on the far side away from the freeway of Lake Fernan, and there's like a big marshy area, just lots of, oh my gosh, what are they
Lily
called?
pads?
Lily pads, thank you. Lily pads, and maybe not cattails. I was thinking cattails, but lots of lily pads, and then just, there's a couple houses on that side of the lake, but it was coming from this patch of woods where we couldn't see anybody, and it was just creeping. It was right at dusk, like the sun had just set. And yeah, it sounded kind of like it reminded me of this White Bluff Screamer where it's like it sounded human-ish. Like,
exactly.
Yep. And so, yeah, I could see how if you didn't know what kind of sound a fox made, and now, of course, I'm thinking of like, what does the fox say?
What does the fox say?
But if you didn't know that and you were out in the woods and heard that, I would absolutely think it was a monster years ago.
That's what we were talking about with Kyler. It's just like, if you saw foxes during the day, but never heard that sound. Like if you were looking at it and it never made a sound, you would just assume that it has maybe like a bark, more like a dog, or that maybe that animal is just really quiet. And then to hear it in the night and to not be able to place the source.
Yeah.
And no Google,
eerie.
in the 1800s,
Right.
no
Right.
Google
Right.
to tell you what it could be.
You ready to leave Tennessee now and head to Germany?
Well, I'm going to be sad to no longer see the 10 I see, but I'll go with you.
Thank you. For this next one, we head back in time to one of the darkest chapters in European witchcraft and werewolf lore. A tale that horrified people across the continent over 400 years ago still chills the blood of many who stumble across it today. Time now for the tale of the Werewolf of Bedborg. Our story begins in the Rhineland, in what is now modern-day Germany. The year is 1589. The Protestant Reformation has already torn Europe apart, and the Catholic Church is engaged in violent counter-reforms. Witchcraft hysteria is sweeping through the continent, and all sorts of people are being accused of consorting with demons. They're being burned at the stake, drowned in rivers and lakes, and tortured into false confessions. And in the small farming town of Bedborg, nestled near Cologne, the devil, some believed, was walking amongst them, and they said that this devil was a man named Peter Stumpp. Before we go further, just know this: everything we know about Peter comes from a single 16-page woodcut pamphlet written in 1590, printed in London, and rediscovered centuries later in 1932 by occult scholar Augustus Montague Summers. That pamphlet, written in the chilling style of a religious warning, is now preserved in a museum. Whether Peter was a madman, a monster, or just another scapegoat caught in the wrong place at the wrong time by a bloodthirsty, superstitious, paranoid medieval mob, one thing is certain: the accusations against him were unlike those being leveled at many others in the area at the time. Little is known for certain about Peter's early life, but he grew up to become a widowed farmer, living just outside of Bedborg with his 2 children. By all appearances, he was well off, respected, even trusted. The townspeople recognized him instantly by his missing left hand, which he had lost years earlier in a farming accident, and that'll come into play here later. Beneath his quiet exterior, it appears as if something may have been festering in Peter, a sickness of the soul, or perhaps something even darker. According to his confession, extracted under torture, to be fair, Peter claimed that by the age of 12, he had already become fascinated with the occult. He said he began practicing necromancy, witchcraft, and black sorcery. That he began to roam the forest alone, muttering incantations in the dead of night. And by the time he was 20, he started to believe that the devil had answered him. What Peter said he wanted, what he claimed to have been muttering about, was power. Specifically, he asked for the ability to unleash his rage, to be able to transform into a powerful creature capable of great violence, and to be unable to unleash that violence without having to worry about being recognized or caught. And the devil in this story was more than happy to oblige. He supposedly gave Peter a magical belt, which he then fastened around his waist, and this belt would transform him into what Peter described as a monstrous wolf, not like a natural beast, but twisted and demonic, like a werewolf. This thing had glowing red eyes, enormous jaws filled with dagger-like teeth, and claws sharp enough to tear a man in two. And then when Peter removed the belt, he would return to normal, no scars, no blood, no evidence. At least no evidence until the bodies began to pile up. According to the pamphlet written about him, over the course of 25 years, Peter went on a truly monstrous killing spree. At first, he targeted women, young, unmarried, and isolated. He would lure them from roads or fields, assault them, then tear them apart, scattering their limbs so that horrified villagers would stumble across the carnage days later. He claimed to have murdered at least 15 women in the early years alone, and that 2 of them were pregnant. Peter said he allegedly tore their fetuses from their wombs and ate their unborn children, describing their flesh as sweet and tender. Then he said he murdered his own son. One day, Peter confessed that he had led his boy deep into the woods, where he then strapped on the cursed belt and transformed, and that soon afterwards he was cracking open his child's skull and eating his brains. His confession didn't stop there. When human victims grew scarce, Peter said he turned to livestock. Cows and goats were found disemboweled in the area he lived, their insides picked clean with no natural predator in sight. Blood pooled around the fields, and the people began to whisper of a beast, a wolf with unnatural size, a creature missing its left paw. And that wasn't the only clue that this beast was actually Peter Stumpp. Despite his supposed horrific crimes, Peter somehow maintained a facade of normalcy. He even took on a mistress, Catherine Trompin, a woman of stunning beauty and social status far above his. People gossiped that she must be a demon in disguise, gifted to him by the devil. And as if that wasn't enough, he was also accused of incest with his teenage daughter. The pamphlet even claimed they bore a child together, one that vanished under mysterious circumstances, possibly killed, possibly eaten. The townspeople began to suspect that true evil lived amongst them, but no one dared act until it was too late for still more victims. One day, 3 villagers, 1 woman and 2 men, were walking through the fields when they were attacked. One man was killed instantly, the other ran to help and was also killed. The woman's body was never found. It was assumed she had been completely devoured. And that was the final straw. The people of Bedborg could no longer stay silent. They gathered a hunting party armed with spears, swords, and dogs. They went into the forest to find this beast. And what happened next became legend. The dogs caught a scent. The hunters chased the enormous wolf through the woods and cornered it, but as they closed in, it began to change. Right in front of their eyes, the beast collapsed inward, twisted and shifted, until standing before them was a man. And that man was, of course, Peter Stumpp, their friend, their neighbor, covered in blood, breathing hard, his sole hand raised in surrender. Following this supposed supernatural showdown and capture, Peter was reportedly arrested and brought before the local magistrate. He was then tortured on the rack, his body stretched to near breaking. And under agony, he confessed and told the whole story, most of which I've already shared with you. And the punishment for his crimes, brutal even by 16th century standards. On October 31st, 1589, Halloween night in the town square, Peter Stumpp was supposedly strapped again to a giant wheel after he had confessed, built especially to be used in brutal executions. Executioners used red-hot pincers to burn and also tear flesh off of his bones. His arms and legs shattered with big, blunt hammers. Then, while he was still barely alive and in total agony, he was beheaded. Finally, his dead body was burned. And then, because the sadism of medieval torturers was often nearly limitless, his mistress, Catherine, and his daughter, whether guilty or not, were burned alive beside his corpse, their screams filling the air as onlookers wept and some vomited from the gore and stench. The wheel upon which Peter had been killed was then engraved with the image of a wolf and left out to be witnessed as a warning. This is what happens to those who make deals with the devil. The pamphlet about him ends with this grim message. This gentle reader, having sat down the true discourse of this wicked man, Stumpp Peter, which I desired to be a warning to all sorcerers and witches, to the utter ruin and destruction of their souls eternally. So was Peter Stumpp truly a werewolf, a madman, a victim in an age of intense superstition and torture? Or did someone, whoever wrote that 16-page woodcut pamphlet in London in 1590, write one hell of a horror novel in the 16th century that would still be considered gory and brutal, even by today's standards? We'll probably never know. But centuries later, this legend still howls like a werewolf through the forests of Germany and still brings chills to whoever hears it.
That's crazy.
I know. It's horrible. It's to me, like, stories like this are scary in two ways. I mean, obviously, if he is a werewolf, and did these things, terrifying. Equally, if not more terrifying, that he was just some dude, and this happened all the time in medieval Europe. That was his fate for just people didn't like him.
Yeah, or being eccentric, or telling a tall tale
or he just didn't like the church, not even just that, just not going to church or whatever, or not being devout enough to earn the suspicion of some paranoid witch hunter. Could lead to you being tortured in the most brutal ways imaginable, killed, having family members killed. It's just crazy. That happened to thousands of people in Europe.
And I'd venture to say there's a contingency of people who would be happy to do it all again.
There always is.
Because you don't go to their church. You don't hold their beliefs.
Yeah, you don't hold their whatever.
Your other.
Yep, exactly.
It's wild. It's wild watching this shit happen.
Yep, and it doesn't even have to be, religious based. It can be like in Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge.
Yep.
It's like anybody they saw as a threat, they just treated them like they weren't even human. And just brutally tortured and executed them.
When will humanity ever learn?
I don't know if we ever will.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am rooting for the Skynet type robots to just murder all of us eventually.
I mean,
on some days,
I often root for the Earth to just explode from the inside out.
Like
for Mother Nature to be like, I've had enough of all y'all shit.
Yep, we had a good run.
It's time for you to go. And
then eventually, the parasites we are will be snuffed out.
I often think of it as like a party guest that you just want to leave.
Right.
Start making up crazy excuses to get people out of your house.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think of Mother Nature that way. She's like, get out of my house.
We're a wild species when you really think about it, where we're capable of the most altruistic good of any species.
Yeah.
Like other species won't necessarily go out of their way like we will to help somebody with no benefit to themselves.
That's right.
Animals tend to be just pretty selfish, all life forms just in their quest for survival.
Absolutely.
And we have, examples of humanity doing the most altruistic, most noble, most courageous things, with no regard for their own personal welfare, people sacrificing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also, conversely, are the most evil species on Earth by leaps and bounds in our worst moments, and are capable of such just wanton violence and destruction.
I wonder if we can have one without the other.
I don't know. Is it a yin and the yang thing? Is there always going to be both?
Feels like
if I had to bet, there will always be both, which is why, we got to be vigilant to identify those who are the worst of us and suppress them.
Get them out. Burn those witches.
Yeah, I know. But what's crazy?
That's the thing, is because that's what people think they're doing.
I know. That's what's so crazy. They think they are doing that.
Yeah.
They think they're doing the good thing and they're getting rid of the bad when they're the bad.
I do try to remember that when people are othering people, or these situations occur, that so many people, it comes from
it comes from a good place.
Their desire to save your soul, or to help you, or to rectify your wrongs. It's like, I am trying to be more patient with people in moments. Talk to me tomorrow. It's a day-by-day situation.
I will always hold with me from covering so many serial killers on Timesuck, how many of them seem to have truly convinced themselves that they're doing the Lord's work, or good work rather, by ridding the world of people they consider to be scum.
Well, if they would start with the pedophiles, I think we'd all be in agreement.
I know. We can just line up their impulses.
Why don't you just line them up
with the right victims?
That's a funny project to take on.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Mr. or Madam President, I have a suggestion for you. I was thinking that I could just start a task force. And I'm going to, all of these like serial killers that are on the FBI's radar, I have an idea.
We'll
line them up, have a little chat with them. You can do whatever you want to this group of people.
Right. Yep. Here's your acceptable victims.
Oh my God. You're ridiculous. Okay. Carry on.
I have some photos or pictures, rather. This first one.
They're both.
Yeah, I guess it's a photo of a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one's a photo of the cover of a 16-page illustrated pamphlet published in London, England, 1590, about Peter, the one I was talking about. Photo found on nationalgeographic.com, as are all the other photos associated with this story. And then this next one.
Declaring the damnable life.
Yeah, the way it reads in that old-timey English. Declaring the damnable life and death of one... It's
Stube.
Yeah, it's Stube in this, and I don't remember why it was translated into Stump later, but anyway. Stube Peter, a...
Moffat?
Moffat? And Most.
Is that Most or is it Molft?
I don't know. Something...
A Molft wicked sorcerer.
Who in the lichens of a wolf committed many murders, continuing this... What?
Wow, what is that word?
Don't even know.
Diluth?
Dioful pacifer years.
25 years.
Killing and devouring. I know, it's funny, like 90% of the words, you're like, okay, and every once in a while you're like, what?
Okay, guys, what do you think this word is? Diuelifh? Or TH? Hard to tell.
Yeah, almost
because it's like printed, not handwritten.
I like years where it's Yeeres.
It looks like it's been like stamped.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious.
It's interesting font or whatever you call it. And then this next one, this is a colorized illustration from that same pamphlet showing Peter as a werewolf, his arrest by authorities, his interrogation, stages of his brutal execution, and then finally burned alongside his alleged accomplices.
Not a ton of werewolf stories going around, I don't feel like.
Man, they really went, they wanted to make sure that you knew exactly how he was getting tortured with those pictures there. And then finally, this is just an old photograph of Bedborg.
That's cool.
Yeah, taken in the 1930s, showing a gateway into the medieval town center. Yeah, very cool. And that's all I got for that one. You ready for the third story?
Let's go.
Okay, so this next story, another one drenched in folklore and fear, also comes from Europe. From a dark chapter in English history, from the haunted hills of northern England, an area long associated with accusations of witchcraft, satanic rituals, and restless spirits that still supposedly roam the moors today. Time now for the tale of the Pendle Witches. Pendle Hill rises sharply above the rolling landscape of Lancashire, England, an isolated and brooding landmark that casts long shadows over the surrounding moors. Standing over 1,800 feet tall, it looms like a sentinel over a region that even now feels frozen in time in many ways. The surrounding villages and hamlets, places like Barley, Newchurch, and Roughly, have long whispered stories of dark rituals, eerie sightings, and voices in the wind. And it's not just the imagination. At the base of Pendle Hill lies a Bronze Age burial site, suggesting that the land has been steeped in ritual and reverence for thousands of years. The hill has been associated with pagan practices, Christian demonology, and even UFO sightings. But its most infamous legacy, the 1612 Pendle Witch Trials, the deadliest witch trials in English history. It began, as so many witch trials did, with a dispute, petty, personal, and poisonous. In March of 1612, a young woman named Alison Device, granddaughter of an aging village healer known as Old Demdike, got into an argument with a peddler from Halifax named John Law. Some say she asked to buy some of Law's pins. 17th century metal pins were handmade, relatively expensive, and frequently needed, or thought to be needed, for supposedly magical purposes, such as in healing, particularly for treating warts randomly, divination, and for love magic, which may have been why Alison was so keen to get a hold of them, and why Law was so reluctant to not sell them to her. Or I guess reluctant to sell them to her. Others say she was begging. Whatever the truth, Law refused whatever she had asked for, and shortly afterward, he suffered a stroke. Unable now to speak or walk properly, Law blamed Alison for what happened to him, claiming that she had cursed him. And this accusation soon reached the ears of Justice Roger Noel, a local magistrate eager to prove himself in King James I's newly emboldened war against witchcraft. When questioned, Allison apparently confessed without being tortured or threatened. She may have truly believed that she did have the power to curse someone, and she didn't care for Law the peddler, who had spoken rudely to her and called her a thief before he had suffered a stroke. Allison readily admitted to asking the devil to strike this peddler down, and in doing so, she unleashed quite the hellstorm. Soon, perhaps now growing truly afraid of what punishment might be coming her way, Allison accused her grandmother, the woman known as Old Demdike, and members of a rival family, the Chaddocks clan, of also consorting with Satan and practicing sorcery. A long-standing feud between the Demdikes and Chaddockses was no secret. Both families were poor, headed by elderly widows, and both were known for offering herbal cures, blessings, and sometimes curses, which was not that unusual back then. Many communities had so-called cunning women, respected folk healers who lived at the edges of society. But now, under King James I, with who the Witchcraft Act of 1604 had been passed, which made hanging mandatory for a first offense of witchcraft, even if the accused had not committed murder, the line between healer and heretic had blurred. Soon, 12 people were accused of witchcraft, all supposedly responsible for the deaths of 10 villagers through various spells, curses, or pacts with the devil. And the subsequent trials, would become infamous, much like the Salem Witch Trials across the pond some 8 decades later. Janet Device, Allison's younger sister and just a 9-year-old girl, would be brought into court and asked to testify against her own family. And she did, calmly and clearly damning her mother, brother, and sister with her words. When her mother, Elizabeth Device, began screaming and cursing young Janet from the defendant's box, the child was removed from the courtroom, but the damage had already been done. In total, 11 people stood trial. The only reason the full dozen didn't was because Old Demdike, who was nearly blind and in her 80s, froze to death in her damp, rat-infested holding cell. One would be found not guilty, another would be tried and hanged in York, and the remaining 9 were all hanged together on the gallows in Lancaster, lined up in a row, their deaths witnessed by hundreds. The accused included healers, beggars, mothers, grandmothers, even a woman named Alice Nutter, a wealthy landowner, who may have been simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. After their deaths, the home of the Demdikes, a place referred to as Malkin Tower, was destroyed because locals feared it was a gateway to hell. Many, of course, will say that this is just nonsense, that all of the people killed were killed over nothing but superstition and greed, the greed of those who wanted these people dead so that they could seize their property. But was there maybe something to the accusations against them, or at least against some of them? Fast forward over 400 years, and the story of these witch trials still haunts the hills of Pendle, perhaps literally. The site of Malkin Tower has never been definitively found, but archaeologists did uncover a ruined cottage in the shadow of the hill. And inside, they found a mummified cat, walled up inside the foundation, part of a known protection spell in old British folk magic. The whispers began immediately. Was this the witch's cottage? Had their spirits returned? Ghost hunters, psychics, and thrill seekers began to flock to Pendle Hill, and many visit every year, especially around Halloween. Some hope to communicate with the spirits, others just want to be scared, and many do not leave disappointed. There have been hundreds of sightings and ghostly experiences on and around Pendle Hill. Disembodied voices are often heard on the slopes, whispers in the wind, sometimes screaming, sometimes pleading. Children's spirits have reportedly been seen walking alone at dusk, their faces pale, their eyes glassy, disappearing before anyone can speak to them. At St. Mary's Church in New Church, where some of the witches are believed to have been buried, a woman named Christine Hamlet captured a creepy photo that I'll share after the story of what appears to be a young girl's face peering out from within or from behind a gravestone. Many believe it's the spirit of Janet Device. And then there's Watteau Hall, just north of Pendle. In the 1800s, it was a site of Peg O'Nell's death, a 17-year-old Irish servant girl who was a remarkable beauty, and after being supposedly cursed by her master for rejecting his advances, she slipped and broke her neck near a well. And local lore now says her ghost drowns one person every 7 years as revenge. In one infamous case, her angry spirit supposedly dragged a preacher into the well, after which the townspeople decapitated a statue thought to represent her. But that didn't stop the drownings. In more recent years, ghost hunter Alan Pickover reported seeing a hooded apparition coming straight for him during a routine inspection of some chimneys in Pendle. He felt a blast of cold, then collapsed. His colleagues said he was pale, barely breathing, and the thermal imaging camera they were using, it allegedly picked up a heat signature from an entity that looked to be the shape of a human but wasn't. In the early 2000s, the British paranormal show Most Haunted broadcast a live Halloween special from Pendle Hill, and it became infamous. Psychic Derek Akora claimed to become possessed by the spirit of one of the witches, his voice changing to that of a croaking old woman, shouting obscenities and demanding the crew leave. During a seance in a house linked to Alice Nutter, a table was thrown across the room, glass exploded, and one of the crew members collapsed, choking, making guttural sounds, and later claiming they felt something trying to pull their soul out. And if that wasn't weird enough, Derek Akora also claimed he encountered, quote, gray-type aliens while investigating a nearby home. He said they told him they visited Pendle often. So make of that what you will. The next and final encounter I'll share supposedly took place less than a decade ago, in 2019. A woman named Ashley and her amateur ghost hunting team visited Pendle Hill for a casual night investigation. And at first, it was uneventful, mostly just cold and quiet. But then while descending the hill, Ashley was suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. Hovering just ahead of her was a face in the mist, half visible, half vapor, as if something were trying to form out of the fog. She described it as wrinkled, toothless, and grinning, with solid black eyes. That night, Ashley claims she woke up screaming, and she swears that when she woke, she found something sitting on her chest, whispering curses in her ear in a language she didn't understand. And then for months following this alleged incident, she claims to have smelled wet earth and ash in her bedroom at night. What does it all mean? She doesn't know, but believes it all has something to do with witchcraft and the ghosts of some of those who were hanged. Whether you believe the Pendle Witches were guilty of real witchcraft or simply victims of superstition, paranoia, a brutal justice system, and greed, it's interesting that Pendle Hill remains one of the most reportedly haunted places in the UK.
It's all some wild stuff.
Yeah, again, just like scary in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it is crazy. Like not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, that you could be tried for witchcraft and then just hanged with no evidence other than somebody being like, yeah, they're a witch. Like, you know, like in the Salem Witch Trials, they actually used, I didn't dig into all the historical aspects of this, but in the Salem Witch Trials, they used spectral evidence.
Oh, yes, very reliable.
They would have somebody come up on the stand and talk about, I dreamed of Mary sitting on my chest at night. And then the court would be like, okay,
That's
that
it.
settles it. She is a witch and we should hang her.
I mean, when I think about the crazy ass dreams I have, if we were operating on that,
Oh my God.
life would be just chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have some photos to show us?
I do. I have a few photos here. This first one is a photo of a gravestone in the graveyard of St. Mary's Church. This is one of the photos I referred to when I said I'll show you in a little bit. This is in New Church in Pendle, courtesy of BurnleyExpress.net, allegedly taken at night. And you see circled there, and I'll show some other photos where it's more zoomed in.
Uh-huh.
This is that photo supposedly where, you know, Christine said she took it, Christine Hamlet, this paranormal explorer, and it's like a ghost. So this next one, so zoomed in, seems to be like you can see like a woman's face.
See. Okay.
And then zoomed in a little further.
I mean, that's pretty much a face.
Uh-huh. The hair flowing down.
That's weird.
Yeah, past her shoulder.
Ooh, I don't like that. Oh, I feel like she's looking at me.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Uh-huh.
And then other than that, I just have a statue of one of the supposed witches who was executed, Alice Nutter, found in her home village of Roughly. This is via barefootbackpacker.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, just a view of Pendle Hill.
Wow. So pretty.
Yeah, this is from a bitaboutbritain.com.
A bit about Britain.
And it's interesting where it's like, I mean, it's a cool hill, but just like we're so spoiled over here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
where like there are just tens of thousands of hills like that where they don't even get names.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
just like, whatever, that hill's kind of cool, but check out that giant mountain behind it.
Uh-huh.
It is so much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no offense, Britain, but mountain-wise, not impressed.
Yeah. You guys aren't at the top of your game. If you could get on that,
Yeah, if you could build some mountains, that'd be super cool.
that'd be great. We'll come visit.
But it is very pretty. I always love, whenever I'm looking at pictures in Britain, like specifically of the countryside,
Uh-huh.
just the rolling green pastures and then like the little rock walls in between them from who knows how long ago. And, sometimes
property lines.
Yeah, the property lines with sometimes some shrubbery or trees. It's just, I don't know, it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm. Dan and I
Quaint. It's very quaint.
Dan and I are currently dreaming of moving to Ireland. That's not founded in anything other than we were on the Oregon coast with family, and we were like, I was like, this is actually my ideal weather. I'm not too hot. I'm not too cold.
Yeah.
Walks on the beach.
Yeah.
It was great.
Maybe like if we could work out a thing where sometimes U.S., sometimes Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last.
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. We talk about all sorts of things.
Oh yeah, we talk about a million different things.
We're always
It's fun to dream.
We're always building these scenarios like, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool if we could blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Lord only knows what will happen.
Sometimes
I would laugh so hard if we literally never moved from where we live.
I know.
After
all of our talk.
14 years.
I bet that's super common, actually. I bet that's. I bet the majority of people, in their adult years, like, ooh, what if we did this, and then what if we did that? But at the end of the day, they just kind of stay.
Yeah,
because
you might like travel, go on a trip, but you're probably not packing up and going anywhere.
Right.
But, I mean, plenty of people do, but we'll see. We'll see where our kids end up.
Yeah, who knows?
Fucking kids. You guys ruin everything.
No, we were just talking about. We joke about them. But we were just talking about how proud we are of like Kyler Monroe, just the people they're becoming, and
yeah, they're pretty okay.
Yeah, Monroe's in the high school phase right now, but she's still a great kid. And Kyler, out of that phase, he's just becoming such a wonderful young man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You little adult.
Yeah.
You're a little bit of an adult. Okay. Are you ready?
Ready.
Do you have your Layla ready?
I got Trad Layla.
Trad Layla.
Mm-hmm.
Are we sticking with that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Trad
Hey,
Layla.
don't you fucking judge her. She likes it.
I'm not fucking judging her. I'm a feminist, which means she can be anything she wants to be. If she wants to be trad, then she gets to be trad.
Yep.
If she doesn't want to, she also doesn't have to.
Okay. She accepts that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to like shake on it?
Yeah.
Just shaking hands. Okay. All right. Now we can move on to the first story. So stupid. Hello, Queen and King of the Spook.
Hello.
I have the normal gushings of how phenomenal I think the podcast is. I listen on my after work runs as my daughter naps in the stroller and we bob and weave through the backwood trails of muggy Florida. You are part of this beautiful core memory I will have years later of her and I spending the golden hour of the day together. I cannot put into words just how much it means to me. So thank you.
Oh.
To be honest, I feel super silly writing in, but the podcast has given me so many hours of enjoyment, I feel like I should give back. My story takes place towards the end of last year, and while everything has calmed down, I wouldn't say it's over. Or can we even say if anything ever really began? As Dan would say, a little bit of setup for this one. I'm sorry to say the backstory is a bummer. When I was nearing 8 months pregnant with my first child, I lost my mother unexpectedly. I was understandably gutted. I did my best to keep myself distracted as I could, and soon we welcomed our beautiful daughter into the world. Between the grief of loss and postpartum depression, I spent a majority of the first months in a haze. Around month 7, my husband began the gentle push of getting me back into the things that had once been my passions. Why don't you take the afternoon and pop into some thrift stores? He suggested. So I did. I was walking the rows of a resale shop that I liked for big furniture pieces when I saw it. It was an old solid wood dresser with 3 drawers, all featuring skeleton key locks and beautiful cutout scroll work around the base. The price tag was $12. Without a second thought, I handed over $12. Now my nights after I got my daughter to bed were spent restoring the dresser that I planned to use as an entryway table in the hallway outside her bedroom. It was just the boost I needed. A few weeks later, I started to notice things that were just a bit odd. This is where I want to reiterate that I feel silly writing it. On their own, all of these things are just that. Little things. I can and have written all of them off, but seeing them all as some sort of big picture, I don't know. Before everyone screams that I'm a Darren or a Donna, hear me out. The first thing that I began to notice was that out of the corner of my eye, I would see movement when my husband wasn't home, particularly around the hallway of my daughter's room. The hallway ran straight into a bathroom, and on each side was a bedroom. The other we used as a guest room. I wrote this off easily. I was a sleep-deprived new mom who knew better than to pipe up about seeing things when everyone was concerned I was already on the edge of depressive. The next thing I noticed was synced behavior from my daughter and our dog. We would be playing on the floor of her room when they would both stop and look to the hallway. My daughter would smile and make a noise, while our dog would sit very close to me. Weird, but not anything worth calling a priest over. One day, I was vacuuming the floors that were starting to get quite a bit messier than before with a mobile baby. Headphones in, a podcast blaring, going room to room, turning the lights off as I went as a mental note that those rooms were done. As I was coiling up the cord, I noticed the light in the hallway in front of my daughter's room was still on. That was weird. I had done that portion of the house first. I went to turn it off and noticed that not only was that light on, but my daughter's overhead light and 2 lamps were also on. Even if I had forgotten to turn off the hallway lights, it was hard to explain the lamps being on in her room. Christmas came and I had gone all out decorating, feeling a bit more like myself with every day that went by. My husband and I were in my daughter's room getting her ready for bed when we heard the tinkling melody of a Christmas song. Confused, he got up and went into the hallway where he picked up the old decorative wind-up Santa Claus I had placed on the old dresser. It had been wound up and was playing Santa Claus is Coming to Town. We both were a little spooked. I hate to admit it, but I was also a little hopeful. Was this my mom coming to let me know she was okay? Were all these little instances signs from her? Then something darker occurred to me. If it was my mom, wouldn't I just know? Was this instead something else? Had my depression over these past months been fueling something? Was it linked to that damn dresser? Or was that just another coincidence? Around the new year, I was getting my daughter ready for a nap. I closed the door to her room and picked her up from the pile of toys she was playing in and sat down in the rocker with her. And then crash. From the shelf that was on the wall with the door, everything fell, including 2 picture frames that now lie face up with shattered glass on the floor. I think we have a ghost, I said to my husband. I think you probably slammed the door and everything fell off the shelf, he said. No, like 30 seconds had passed after I closed the door and I didn't slam it. Things take a while to fall, he said. And that was that. To him, the only other instance he had had on his radar was the wind-up at Christmas, which was already hard enough to raise concern. But for me, all the little odd coincidences were now adding up quickly. That night, around 2:30 a.m., the fire alarms in the house all went off. It didn't last but 20 seconds before all the beeping stopped. My husband and I were up, about, and frantic. We looked around to make sure there was, in fact, not a fire. I checked the baby monitor. She was sound asleep. Then they went off again. Another short burst, followed by silence. We built this house in 2021. I will not pretend to understand the fire alarm wiring in an old or a new house. And to be honest, I thought you just put batteries in and stuck it to the ceiling. But all the fire alarms were going off. Not just one in our room or just in the living room, all of them. One of the alarms must be going bad, said my husband. They're brand new, I said. I think we have a ghost. They're probably just cheap fire alarms. It sucks, but if they keep going off, we're going to have to replace them, my husband said. But we did not replace them. The fire alarms kept going off in the middle of the night, and in the middle of the night only. It happened with no pattern for the next 2 months. My daughter never woke up from them. I thought about saging the house, but with the smoke alarm issue, well, that seemed like I was going to be asking to be woken up from a dead sleep. So I placed the sage on the old dresser in the hallway, and we haven't had one single issue since. There's no closing to this tale. I still think that I see something out of the corner of my eye from time to time, and things will fall off my daughter's shelf now and again, but nothing's broken. And I wonder if some part of me did the right thing by not reacting to the escalations. I'm back to my old self, or as back as a person can be after a significant loss, so whatever it is, if anything, I don't have the same negative energy to draw it in. What do you guys think? Do I have a haunted dresser that I'm being a Darren/Donna for keeping around? Was it all just bad timing? Something taking advantage of my mental state? I hope I hear your thoughts on my next run.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that everything coincided with her bringing the dresser back from the thrift store.
I think so.
So it might just be, like coincidence that she happened to have, or be dealing with postpartum depression, and that her mom died could have nothing to do with her mom or her depression. It could just be the dresser.
Uh-huh.
And especially because she said she put sage on the dresser and that it's been good ever since.
I know that was like the tipping point for me too.
Yeah. And I felt like I identified with the husband a lot in that story. Just that thing of like, things take a while to fall. One of the alarms must be going bad. Just looking for any reason for it not to be the paranormal.
Totally.
I especially like things take a while to fall because I don't know that that's true. But I can see myself rationalizing, something exactly like that.
Okay, I can see what he's saying. Like if you have knickknacks on a shelf,
Yeah,
and it's on the wall of a door, and the door opens and closes a lot, that item could be slowly shifting to the edge of the shelf before it ever actually falls.
that's true. Like a domino effect,
Yeah.
like one knocking, or like you said, like just kind of vibrating and maybe moving, and it takes a little while for it to actually fall. But yeah, but I would be like him looking for any rational explanation.
Yeah. And it's hard too in this situation because you can't isolate any of it. It's not like you can go back and I guess the only isolation you could do is remove the dresser from the house. But things have already calmed down. But taking it from the mother's death to the birth to the postpartum to getting the dresser, it's like, you can't isolate like when your mom died and when you gave birth. Like those are just things that happened. So it could be related to that, but there's no way to actually know that. Which is kind of frustrating.
But I mean, nice that she figured it out,
Yeah,
sounds like she's fine, now.
Yeah.
That it's the activity is, if not completely gone, there's not much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I would love an update if there is one, because this was sent in a while ago. If they bought their house in 21, she says she sent this like late last year, but that could be like end of 22, end of 23, end of 24. I don't actually know, but I would love to hear if there's been anything else happening.
That would be cool, actually, to get, if anybody has them, if you've sent in a story that has been read in previous years on the show and it was a little like open-ended, to send in an update.
Yeah.
If there's any interesting information, that would be fun.
That would be fun. Yeah. I would welcome that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to go to Bulgaria?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do.
Okay. Well, then let's. Hey, Dan and Lindsay.
Hello.
First off, I'm a huge fan of the show.
Thank you.
My husband, Mark, got me hooked a few months ago when we were looking for something spooky to listen to on a long drive. And, well, now we're both obsessed.
Yes.
This is my first time writing in. And honestly, I never thought I'd have anything worth sharing until something happened to us overseas that I still can't fully explain. So here it goes. Last fall, Mark and I took a 3-week trip through Eastern Europe. We're both architecture nerds and planned our route around castles, ruins, and historical sites. One of the stops on our trip was in Bulgaria, specifically the town of Veliko Tarnovo. It's this insanely charming medieval town with cobbled streets, ancient stone houses built into cliffs, and the Sarevets fortress overlooking everything like something out of a fantasy movie. While we were there, we signed up for a small group architecture tour. This was led by a local guy named Stefan, who had a thick accent and an encyclopedic knowledge of Bulgarian history. He was great. Super passionate, super proud of his culture, and really funny in that dry Eastern European way. Toward the end of the tour, he took us to this old stone bridge called the Stambolov Bridge. It arches over the Yantra River and connects part of the old town to a wooded bluff. Beautiful views. But Stefan warned us not to go back across the bridge after dark. He said, very casually, "It's just a story, of course. But they say, if you cross the bridge at night, something may follow you back." And that got my attention. When I asked him what he meant, he told us there have always been tales about that part of the river being a liminal place, like a thin spot between this world and the next. People over the years have reported seeing figures on the bridge at night, pale, barefoot, wet-looking, and silent. Some say they move weirdly, like they're glitching. Others say the figures vanish the moment you look directly at them. The creepiest part? He said people have reported hearing footsteps behind them while crossing, even when they're alone. And if you acknowledge whoever or whatever is following you, if you stop or turn around or speak to it, it will follow you home. Mark and I looked at each other and just kind of smirked. I mean, yeah, spooky, but it felt like a campfire story made up to keep the kids from sneaking out after curfew. That night, we went out for a late dinner and drinks. It was after midnight when we were finally headed back to our Airbnb. And guess where we found ourselves? That's right, at the mouth of the Stambolov Bridge. The faster, well-lit path home was blocked because of some street repairs, and the only way around it was a massive detour. We figured, screw it, let's just cross the bridge. I mean, we're adults after all. The thing is, we weren't even trying to tempt fate. We were just tired. I even said out loud, "Come on, ghosts, we're just too jet-lagged for this." We laughed and started walking. It was dead quiet. The town had basically gone to sleep. The only other sounds were our shoes on the stone walkway and the distant rush of the river below. About halfway across, I noticed Mark slow down. He didn't stop, just sort of glanced back over his shoulder. And then he said, "Did you hear that?" I hadn't, I told him. It was probably just an echo from our steps bouncing off the hills. But then I heard it too. Another pair of footsteps, distinct from ours. Not echoing, not rhythmic. Just sort of an uneven shuffling. And did it sound wet? Mark grabbed my arm. His face had gone pale. "I swear to God, Lewis, someone's behind us." Now, my heart was racing, but I remembered the story. "Don't acknowledge it." I whispered, "Keep walking." We picked up the pace, and the footsteps behind us did too. It was like they mimicked us. When we slowed, they slowed. When we hurried, they hurried. We made it across the bridge and darted up the hill toward the main road, then ducked into a little alcove to catch our breath. And I looked back. No one was on the bridge, but I'm telling you, I still felt it. That weight, like eyes on the back of your head, like something was standing just beyond the edge of the streetlights. We didn't talk about it when we got back to the Airbnb. We just crawled into bed and held each other real tight. Neither of us slept much that night. The next morning, we were both kind of jumpy and rather exhausted. Mark kept checking behind him wherever we went when we were out. I didn't feel great either, like I'd brought something home with me, even though that made no logical sense. That evening, I was brushing my teeth when Mark called me into the bedroom. He'd unpacked one of our suitcases and was going through our laundry when he noticed something weird. Some of our clothes were wet. Not just like humid from being packed, but wet. And specifically, the socks and shoes we wore when we crossed the bridge were soaked. We hadn't stepped in any puddles. It had been dry out. And then we found a muddy footprint on the hardwood floor just inside the front door. Not either of ours. It was narrow, long, and definitely barefoot. Mark freaked the fuck out and wanted to leave. I told him to calm down, that maybe the Airbnb owner had come in for something, or I don't know, maybe it was just some like elaborate prank between the owner and Stefan. But when we checked the door, we found it was locked from the inside. There went the owner theory. Now, I'm not going to pretend we were brave. That night, we packed up and moved to a hotel. Didn't even try to get a refund. We were just done with that place. The next day, we bumped into Stefan again by total coincidence. He was having coffee at the cafe near the fortress, and we told him what happened. He didn't laugh. He didn't call us stupid for crossing the bridge after dark. He just looked at us and said, very seriously, "You must be careful with old places. They have long memories. Some doors don't open easily, and once they do, they don't always shut." We left Veliko Tarnovo that afternoon, and back home in New Mexico, everything is back to normal. We haven't had any weird footprints or soggy shoes since. I still think about that night on the bridge, though. I still believe that something did follow us, even if just for a while, and maybe just far enough to scare the hell out of us. Now, whenever we travel, we're a little bit more respectful of the local legends. You won't catch us crossing any bridges after dark anymore either, I'll tell you that much. Thanks for reading, and thanks for the show. It's honestly helped me process this all in a weird way. Stay spooky, Lewis.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. My mind went to a weird place just because of a video I'd seen earlier today. But when they were talking about the crossing the bridge after hearing the lore, and then like the wet sounding thing, coming up and following them. I'd watched this video just for a brain break earlier today of like pranksters, like severe pranksters, people like harassing people in public, getting some payback, and just like pranks gone wrong where they try to scare people, and the person just snaps and like beats the shit out of them. But the pranks were so extreme. It's
Yeah, no, it's
always
warranted.
justified.
Yeah,
you're like, yep, that's the risk you took.
Yeah.
And I just thought about, like, if you were in that town and you were some teenager, with a bent towards wanting to pull pranks, and you knew that people were being told by tour guides and others in the area that there was these creatures that would come out of the river and like follow people. I could absolutely see myself wanting to or pulling it off maybe with some friends, just doing that, like dressing up, walking twitchy, and like be sopping wet and making that wet sound and just scaring the shit out of people.
It'd be pretty fun.
It would, unless they snapped and attacked you.
But I think in that kind of prank, I don't suspect that the person being pranked is going to run towards what they think is a cryptid or a ghost.
Or
generally, we run away from them. I think you get...
And you're not touching anyone.
No. You're just making sounds.
True. I did see in that prank compilation in New Orleans in the French Quarter I always forget the name of the street, maybe Decatur, the one that goes right in front of Jackson Square.
Yeah, Decatur.
Okay, and there's like street performers and stuff there. And I was like, oh my God, I think I've seen this guy. And I think he almost did it to us. It was one of the people who dressed up like a shrub and then they just pretend to be a shrub. And then when you walk by them, the shrub like leaps at you. And I'm like, I think it was when I was with Kyler Monroe there once. I think we saw this shrub guy.
Oh, that
and maybe
feels
with
familiar.
you once too. Yeah, I think he's kind of a common. There's probably several of them doing this.
Yeah. Oh, I think we saw that with Kyler and Monroe, not in New Orleans. I feel like
maybe it was somewhere else.
I thought we saw it in like downtown Coeur d'Alene, but it's like a common prank.
Yeah, exactly, a common prank that people do around. But this one lady, I don't know what she was dealing with or whatever.
Oh, no.
But he just did the scare. This lady, she's probably like 40 years old, started sobbing.
That'd be me.
Yep. And then he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, I'm just goofing around. I'm so sorry. And she just kept crying.
Well, I think it's just the shock. It's like when you scared me that one time at the house and I screamed and then I cried. It's like I didn't even want to be crying.
She did that in public. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just an adrenaline reaction.
But it doesn't sound like Mark and the story sender, doesn't
Lewis.
sound like Lewis. Yeah. Doesn't sound like they were dealing with that.
No. I mean, I love lore from other countries, and as people who love to travel, I was like, I can absolutely see this happening. Like, you're just in another country, you go on a tour, they tell you something that you're kind of like, bullshit, but then there you are, and you're like, God dang it.
And how fun for Mark and Lewis to do a architectural tour in Bulgaria.
Like so dreamy.
I know, it is.
Well, and not just in Bulgaria, they were in Eastern Europe
right,
for
other places
3 weeks.
too.
That's incredible.
Yeah, just seeing those old villages. What a cool place to live, where like you have modern amenities, but you do live in a place that looks like a movie set.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like oh, this is this castle that was built 800 years ago, and where it was sieged 6 different times, and here's where Vlad the Impaler fought off some people or whatever,
I know. I'm pretty excited for our trip that we're going to take next year with my mom.
Yeah.
I've been dying to go to Croatia for a long, long time, probably like the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And we're in Slovenia.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's going to be a really fascinating trip.
Yep. I am excited for it as well. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sending those stories in, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, friends. Yeah. And don't forget, guys, when you send in your stories to my story at scaredtodeathpodcast.com, if you send it to info, I don't even read it. I just forward it onto my story because that's, the setup that we have. And please, 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 please do not submit your fan fiction. It will just not, won't, that's not what this show is. So please don't do that.
Yeah, we don't have a Nightmare Fuel equivalent of fan stories.
Yeah. And Nightmare Fuel, as like cool as it is that there are so many aspiring writers in our community, and we love that.
Yeah.
Dan is just solely working on fleshing out the ideas that have been in his brain for a long time. So it's so sweet. And like, trust me, I do send, I'm like, hey, somebody sent in an email. They just thought like this might be like an idea you want to look into. Totally welcome it. That's very cool. But he's not going to take your work and adapt it into Nightmare Fuel. That's just not what that show is.
Yeah.
I just want to, we've been getting some of those as Nightmare Fuel's been getting better. And it's really cool. Like we get some awesome like tips from writers who are like, hey.
Love that.
Yeah. So it's all welcomed. I just wanted to let you know what happens on this end when you send those things. So you're not disappointed or frustrated. Like, hey, why didn't I hear that? It's like, because that's not the show. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to thank Annabelle's first or me?
You can go first.
Okay. I would like to thank the following Annabelles for helping our show. David Rodriguez, Dee, just Dee, just two letters. Dee.
That's what we call Ginger sometimes. So, and in that voice, Dee.
Actually, right now we call Penny Wiener Butt.
She had a lot of mats in her tail, so when she got groomed, it's
down to nothing.
It's so weird looking. It's like a long rat tail.
And she has normally a very fluffy tail that she keeps long and keeps poofed up, very poodly.
She keeps it long.
She keeps it long. She prefers to keep it long.
She likes
and
to brush it every night.
She brushes it. Yeah, she blow dries it. But it is up and she's pointing up and poofy. And now it's just like this sad, and it's kind of like bent too.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
it is freaking me out in moments.
Looks pretty mangy, and it just gives her such a different look. But it was funny. We were playing with her, Lindsay and I and Kyler. We'd play this game in the basement with the dogs. They love. And I started calling her Wiener Butt. And I don't know if it was just the tone of voice I was using, but
Wiener Butt.
Wiener Butt. Hey, Wiener Butt. 2 or 3 times in, she was already responding to it. And now she also responds to Wiener Butt.
Great. I love it.
It kills me. Also like to thank Murder Pixie.
Nice.
I feel like this is supposed to be one of those ones where it makes a certain sound. IDOBSEEKU. It's like IHDOBSEEKEU. Sorry if that's not it. So IDOBSEEKU.
That's
or CQ.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Cryptid, but Crips. Cryptid Creations 307.
Got it.
Feels like a cool business. And I bet it's in maybe the Denver area. I can't remember the 307 zip code. Lucy Frazier, Nicole Warden, Taylor Larson, Debbie Woods, and Renzo Zambrano.
Nice. Okay, well, I'd like to thank the following Annabelles for their continued support on Patreon. We will be announcing August's charity in next week's episode, so stay tuned for that. And thank you for making those donations possible. Macadoodle Batty, Kayla Glasgow, Seth Presley, Tara, Shane Donovan, Haley Jones, Koozie Babs, Taylor Marks, Aaron Baker, and Caitlin Tabor. Tabor.
Well done.
Thank you.
And spoopy shoutouts.
Yes, thank you. Just a few. To Taylor, from Taylor, happy 29th birthday to me, a total creeper and baddie. To Bailey, from Bailey, happy 26th birthday. You've worked your ass off to make the life you want, moving to different cities all on your own. Remember always how far you have come and how much of yourself you have discovered along the journey. To Virginia, from Virginia, 43 is going to be the best year ever. You'll finish your degree and you're going to do what's best for your family. This last year was a struggle, so it's nothing but up from here. And lastly, to Kate and Ransom from Kale, keep going, Kate. We'll get through this together. I'm so proud of you. And Ransom, I love you so much already, buddy. Welcome to the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really sweet.
And that's our show.
That's our show.
Thanks for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You could email us for everything else, info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thank you, Logan Keith, for scoring today's show. Thanks to Heather Rylander, organizing the My Story emails. Thanks to book editor Drew Atana for polishing and preparing listener stories for book number 6. Thank you to Olivia Lee, finding the first story I shared this week, and to Sarah Finch for finding the second and third. We're on Facebook and Instagram where we post pics that accompany episodes and more at Scared to Death Podcast. We also have a private Facebook group called Creeps and Peepers, full of fellow horror lovers and moderated by the all-seeing eyes who do a fantastic job of making it a welcoming community.
Yeah, they really do give it their
really
all.
Do.
I'm in a text thread with all of them, and even if it seems like, oh, what's going on there? They are all volunteers, and they all work incredibly hard to make it good in there.
Yep, and Lindsay keeps me updated on what's going on in there and a lot of their messages, and just a great bunch.
Yeah.
So enjoy your nightmares, creeps and peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but hath no home here within, scared to death.
Mad Magic Productions.
I've had enough of all y'all shit.
Yep, we had a good run.
It's time for you to go.